In Chicago, changed the culture completely. Changed the culture completely. When I went into Chicago Blackhawks, 1988, Bobby Hull, Stan Mikita, Whitey Stapleton, Esposito and net, Phil Esposito, the whole bunch of them. I brought in our owner, Mr. Wirtz. I said, Mr. Wirtz, sit down, please, beside me in the dressing room. They had this arcade, and Mr. Wirtz didn't want to spend any money. God bless his soul, but he's deceased now, but he didn't want to spend any money. I said, you can't build a winner in here. I said, look at the locker rooms. Sit beside me. I said, Bill, his name was Bill. I said, I can't see you. They had a big stall. You sat back. I said, these guys would hide. And I said, secondly, what are these tall things that you see in the hotel lobbies? The little round things where you puff your cigarette out. Every second stall had a cigarette dispenser in the locker room. I said, I don't smoke, so I guess we can't have it in here. But just the fundamental changes. You go around and you change the expectation and you build something. So my carpentry days, this goes out. They had no change room. That goes out. They had no video room. That goes out. We have to have a video room. No place to change it. No gymnasium. Zero. 1988. Zero equipment. Nothing. Not a bicycle. Nothing. Zero. Bring that all in. He said, look at God, the expense. You know. I said, you know, it's 1988. You got to think of your competitors. I just come from Philadelphia. Now, in fairness, Pat Croce was way ahead of everyone. And probably we were the most fit team in the league without any question whatsoever because we had everything you can imagine. Flyers, again, I go back to them. Good for Mr. Snyder. He's the first guy to hire an assistant coach to help Fred Shiro, Mike Nikolic. So that evolution took place. But again, here's the changes that have to take place, that change the culture, that change the environment. And it comes, and maybe sometimes educating your sponsorship group or your ownership group or whoever the people might be in control. You've got to get their support as well. But those are little examples of what has to happen to make this thing happen in terms of your vision, your experience, and then getting them to accept change as well. He wasn't used to paying players. He wasn't used to having facilities like that. I mean, they're only hockey players. So, our first game, I said, fellas, there's no smoking in the dressing room. And we're changing this team over that was very, very loyal to the Blackhawks, and we had all the guys that had been there. So I said, there's no smoking in the dressing room. If you have to smoke, go out in the hallway. After the first period, the first game, I come down, there's nobody in the dressing room. They're all in the hallway smoking. So it was pretty weird. Needless to say, I got them back in the room. There'd be no smoking period. But again, change. 2 players lasted the changes in Chicago out of the whole group. Out of the whole group. So that's over time because sometimes, as I said, it's very difficult to change human behavior. And you can't do it today because of the contracts and the structure of the National Hockey League. But at that time, over time, we had to do it because it was tough for them to embrace the change. They wanted to go and have a smoke rather than be committed and getting the job done. But over that time, I was there 4 years coaching. We won 3 divisional titles. We won the President's Trophy. We went to the Final Four twice. We went to the Stanley Cup Final once, and we played 60 playoff games in 4 years. So we had to find people that wanted to do that, and that became the Ronix, the Chelios, the Goulets we traded for, the Balfours, bringing them up, free agent, the Hassicks, and so on, without naming the whole team. So those are part and parcel of what has to take place. To build a team and to build a winning team, you have to now have a sense of trust. Ken said yesterday about establish relationships with your star players, your role players, so that you as a messenger can communicate with them. But here's what I've understood. It's better, and I use that word, it's better to understand than to be understood. It's your job as a teacher, as a coach, as a motivator, as a person of inspiration, to understand the people, the students, and their skill set and their ability, and where you can move them to. It's not their job to understand you. It's not your job to get upset when they don't communicate or they haven't understood what you said. That's your job. The biggest mistake that I made that I regret in my coaching career was my approach to Brett Hull. I am so still upset with myself. He was very difficult to handle, but he was a special individual and a skilled player and a great athlete. And as a teacher, I'm still upset with myself because it was the one guy I couldn't get to. I had lots of difficult students to deal with. And I look back and I said, I didn't handle this properly. I didn't give him the understanding that I should have, or the level of communication. I know, and people say, well, you tried. I said, I did try, but my job isn't to try. My job is to succeed and to get it done. So I think those are valuable lessons that you bring with experience and trust. And I think that over the course of time, when you've got people where you have to be really demanding, you've got a Dirk Graham, our captain of our Blackhawks, and I'm very demanding. And then I got that carried over to Canada Cup in '91, and he's in the locker room, and again, very demanding. Canada expects us to win. I don't know if you understand this, but there is no second place for Canada in hockey. And I was very demanding, and Dirk stood up in the locker room and said, Mike, you've got to back off a bit. I said, will you look after it? And he said, yes, I will. I said, thanks very much. That's all I want to know. So he took the group and said, this is what we're going to do. So I had invested enough time, just like Ken talked about old players, old relationships. Dirk played for me long enough. He knew what to expect and what the message was.